listening very, very attentively. Very attentively indeed. Many of you know that early on I was highly suspicious of my dear brother Barack Obama. I heard him give a speech in Boston at the Democratic National Convention. I was with my dear brother Tavis Smiley. He said, America is a magical place. I turned to Brother Tavis and say, he's going to have a Christopher Columbus experience. He's going to discover America. Ain't nothing magical about this place. No, 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 no. Genocidal attack. My dear brother from Samoa. Slavery, Jim Crow, vicious patriarchal violence, trashing gay brothers and lesbian sisters. Till the last 40 years, deeply anti-Semitic, presently still deeply anti-Arab in its own way. Nothing magical about the place. It wouldn't be democratic if everyday people hadn't mustered the courage to organize and mobilize and try to preserve precious rights, precious liberties, rule of law, and some accountability of greedy elites before they go to their greedy graves. Nothing magical about it all. We don't need to tell Disneyland-like lies about ourselves in order to accent the best of who we are, our achievements. But we don't need to become so obsessed with our achievements that we can't come to terms with our radical inadequacies, structural as well as individual. And my aim in the next 3 years, 4 years, try to mobilize as much organized pressure on the Obama administration so that it tilts toward poor people and working people. Oh, this is what we need. This is what we need. I could already tell he was on the wrong path when he talked about Abraham Lincoln in the way that he did. But he talked about Lincoln as if Lincoln was primarily obsessed with bipartisanship. I would say, no, no, no. Abraham Lincoln, when he came to this town in 1860 and gave his first inaugural address, go back and read that address. He supported the first proposed 13th Amendment that said slavery forever in America. Slavery in perpetuity in America. Frederick Douglass bought a ticket to Haiti and said, I'm leaving. I can't stand to be in a country that has in its constitution slavery forever, especially slavery of black people who've been so hated and despised and dishonored and disrespected. Abraham Lincoln, why be such a mediocre, opportunistic politician in order to preserve the Union? We understand you want to preserve the Union. Well, what kind of principles do you have? Do you understand the difference between being prudential and being opportunistic? But Lincoln would become great, but he only became great because of little white sister's name, Harriet Beecher Stowe, and Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was a literary expression of a social movement called abolitionism. Because of courageous politicians like Wendell Phillips and Charles Sumner. More than anybody else, the most eloquent of all ex-slaves in the history of the modern world, his name was Frederick Douglass, putting pressure on Abe. That's all right, though, Brother Ambassador. You got to be connected. Oh, yes. No problem. No problem. You're a busy man. Putting pressure on Abe. Abe becomes a great statesman in the last 3.5 years of his life because he's forced to come to terms with the pressure of a social movement because the seductions and the temptations of the reigning consensus would have rendered him mediocre and opportunistic. And I'm not talking about Bill Clinton. I'm talking about Abe. Clinton on welfare, Clinton on crime, Clinton on telecommunications bills, Clinton on eliminating the Glass-Steagall Act, the commercial investment bankers coming together. Opportunistic to the core. I love Brother Bill. I believe in loving folk. Protect them, respect them, correct them. It's the truth. It's true. True across the board. That's what we said to Brother Hugo. Brother Hugo, oh, Brother West, you're giving me all these critiques on X and Y. And your deep commitment to rights and liberties and rotation of elites. Yeah, I'm a deep Democrat. That's right. That's the kind of Jesus-loving black man I am. I'm a deep Democrat. But you know what? I See where we agree here? And I'm also keeping track of you, and you keep track of me, because I have inadequacies too. You see, but I'm not an echo, I'm a voice. I come from a people that's not lift every echo, it's lift every voice. See, I'm not a copy, I'm trying to be an original. I try to be somebody who is a creation and invention, not just an imitation. All imitation is suicide. You can't raise your voice without the courage and the wrestling with the disagreement and seeing where the overlap is, but the love is still there. I don't know whether our Cuban brothers are still here. Did they have to leave? They had to leave. Yeah, I had a long dialogue. Beautiful dialogue. Is there any Cuban brothers here? Raise your hand if you are here. Oh, you're Cuban brother. Yeah, give our Cuban brother a hand here. Give him a hand. Give him a hand. Now we had a rich dialogue on precisely this issue. Precisely this issue, relation to race and so forth and so on. No, we sit down as brothers and sisters. We wrestle with it. We have our own voices. The voices overlap. Sometimes there's tension. Sometimes they don't coincide. Where we do coincide, let us be honest. So in the end, we can trust one another. In the end, when I look at my dear brother Alvarez and I say, yes, I can keep track of his integrity, whether I fully agree with him or not. Both his humanity, his intelligence, his imagination, but also his fundamental concern with the poor, not just in Venezuela, not just in Latin America, but around the world and also in chocolate cities. And when we disagree, we wrestle with each other like Jacob with the angel of death in the 32nd chapter of Genesis. Wounded but with a new name. From Jacob to God wrestling trail. From brother Bernardo, brother Cornel wrestling together. And in that wrestling, we become more collectively stronger. That to me is what democracy is about. Just like the Duke Ellington band. Raise your voice with all the tensions and the dissonance between those voices, not to coincide, not some mystical union, block, but all of those voices with all the tensions, sometimes going in different directions, but elevating the performance of the collectivity. Democracy in action. That's what democracy is. Trying to convince people to raise voices, especially people catching hell, especially poor people. And I think that's the challenge in the age of Obama. How do we engage in a radical awakening so that people can come together, see clearly? Brother Obama, your economic team, no history of concern with poor people. Check out the records of Geithner. Check out the records of Summers. Check out the records of Thurman. Check out the records of Goldberg. Neoliberal brothers. History of it. Proteges of Robert. Tied to the same neoliberal consensus. Well, we're Keynesian neoliberals. Okay, that's better than Friedmanian neoliberals. That's what you had during the age of Obama. That's the age of Reagan. That's what you had under Bush. Some of them said we were all followers of Milton Friedman. That's what my dear brother Larry Summers said a few years ago. He changed his mind. God bless him. Keynesian neoliberals, given the major crisis of the world capitalist economy? Paul Krugman's right. Joseph Stiglitz was right. And they're not even leftists, they're progressive liberals. They're absolutely right. When are you going to turn the focus on working people and poor people? Where's your direct jobs creation programs? Appreciate the healthcare debate. How truncated, narrow, parochial, and provincial. Make a deal with the drug companies before the dialogue emerges. Becomes a bonanza for the companies before the poor people even make an entree on the stage. The one element becomes negotiable, public option. Politicians come to the floor of the Senate, some of the speeches written by the lobbyists. Uh-oh.